This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Football Night in America podcast, where we are going to celebrate, break down, recap what we saw Week 8. Maria Taylor alongside the jubilant Matthew Berry. Okay, hail Commanders, hail Mary.
Hail victory.
Mike Florio, Devin McCourty, Jason Garrett here. And that's where we should start, though. The Commanders 6-2 off to their best start since 2008. But just give me the breakdown of what you're thinking when you watch the play actually happen, Matthew, in the studio.
Well, so first off, I'm annoyed because I'm like, what? We got to score touchdowns. We got to score touchdowns. And we've outplayed them the entire game. And then last couple of drives, I'm like, we're going to lose this stupid game. I can't believe we're going to lose this game. And, you know, and then the fumble, you have new life, and then we give it back, and then they score, and you're like, what are you going to do? And then we're watching it, and we're all watching it here during a commercial break on Football Night in America, and I'm in a different part of the studio than you guys, and so weirdly, like the play's 13 seconds long, and so we're watching it, and apparently the feed you guys had was like about a half second ahead of the feed on the monitors where me and some of the other guys were watching, and also I'm watching, and like I hear this huge roar, and I'm like, what the hell happened? And then Noah Brown miracle. And then I screamed, like, you know, I'm a middle-aged adult man, and I screamed like a child. I was so happy. I was so happy. I was texting with a good buddy of mine who's a Commanders fan, and I said, my favorite play of all time is John Riggins' 4th and 1 against Miami in the Super Bowl.
Good play.
But I think this is number 2 all time. I mean, like, come on, man. That kid's special. I'm sorry. He's just special.
Well, and he wasn't even supposed to play.
I know.
That's what was amazing about it. I don't know whether they downplayed everything to keep the Bears guessing, but it was a week-to-week rib injury. They were concerned about it, but yet, you know, the sign came yesterday when he participated in the walkthrough, taking treatment in meetings, and then we get the word this morning he's going to play. He makes that throw with the rib cartilage injury. That makes it even more impressive. And Noah Brown made the most nonchalant catch of a Hail Mary I've ever seen. He's just like, oh, here's the football. And that's that.
Well, Coach, Jason Garrett.
This is coaching. That's what it is.
That's all that is.
Let's go back on Washington. We're talking about the quarterback, and rightfully so. I went there in the spring. There was a bulldozer that was tearing out an old AstroTurf field from 1985. Still, not field turf, AstroTurf field. There's new ownership there. They're getting rid of the old, and they're bringing in the new. And the guy who's leading the new is Dan Quinn. And anybody who's been around Dan Quinn, I work with him, competed against him. He's an unbelievable football coach. And he spent the first couple weeks of the offseason, they didn't do football. They did cultural stuff, get to know each other. Really, as coaches and players, they did a lot of these exercises to kind of build this team back up. And I think we're seeing the dividends of that. If they don't take Jaden Daniels with the second pick, we might be having a different conversation. But in combination with his leadership and the new quarterback, it's a new day in Washington. And I do think they are a team of destiny.
And it was fun today to watch these two guys, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, make plays. It wasn't perfect for either one of them. We talked about it all game. Caleb Williams made some unbelievable scramble plays. And then this is what football is all about. This is why it's so magical, is that a game could be going a certain way. We're kind of in there like, it's kind of boring. This is not the game we signed up for. And next thing you know, it takes off. And you have to make all the right plays in the big moments. And Washington did that. And again, I'm a defensive guy on here, so Jaden Daniels, unbelievable. Throw up the Hail Mary. But to have that many things go wrong in the last 2 plays of the game, you talk about it, you said it earlier, bad coaching, bad execution as players, that's a loss. As a defense, you walk away and you say, we lost. There's no just get mad at the coach for the second play, and there's no just get mad at the players for not being ready. Other than Tyreek Stevenson, be mad at him all you want. Like, that's unacceptable to not be ready for a play.
Listen,
year 2, year 1.
I love Tyreek Stevenson.
I
love him.
He's a good player
for him.
But that is unacceptable.
I love me some Tyreek Stevenson.
How do you get past this if you're the Bears, though? That's what I keep thinking about. You could have been 5-2. Now you're 4-3. You're in the basement in the best division in football. How in the world do you process this? And they have to go play the Cardinals this weekend in Arizona, which are, you know, they're no slouch at this point. It's going to be tough for them to get over it. Sims always talks about 1 loss not becoming 2. This is a situation where if they're not careful, they could end up losing that one as well.
We know how you do it. We heard Jameis say it, Maria. Unwavering faith and ultimate belief.
Absolutely. Right. And unemotional in how you handle this game, you address it. They're learning opportunities for this team. You have to address and recognize the good stuff from this game. They were down most of the game, and they scratched and clawed, got themselves back in it, and went ahead late to go win the game on the road. It's still a young football team with a young quarterback. So you have to recognize that as you're addressing the other stuff and then put it behind you. I think Flus will do a good job of that.
I'll say this, too. One last thing is, I was on New England when we gave up the Miami Miracle and that.
But you weren't on the field.
I wasn't on the field. I got subbed out.
Be clear about that.
But I remember the next day we came in, and as a defense, Brian Florio is our defensive coordinator. He brought us in, and he said, we always get on you guys about being ready to go when every play matters. You guys played well enough today to win, or yesterday, to win the game. As a coaching staff, we failed you. We lost that game because of the coaches, not you. You weren't perfect, but you played well enough to win. And I think when he said that, the defense was able to move on and say, okay, we're in this together. You recognize it like, yeah, we know we could have done some things better, but you also are recognizing and taking accountability for where you guys fell short. This is a team.
Well, and by the way, you go talk about coaching and how much coaching matters. I go back to Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. I think a lot of people, the narrative in the preseason or in the coaching search was like, oh, they want Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson turned him down, and so Dan Quinn, you know, getting a second chance, but he wasn't really the sexy pick, if you were, and Cliff Kingsbury had been out of football for a year, and so there were questions about both coaches, and I think both coaches have done an unbelievable job because, honestly, if you look at that team talent-wise, there's some talent alongside the defensive line. You like McLaurin and you like the running backs, but honestly, there was questions about the offensive line. There was questions about the secondary, and that defense is playing as well as any defense in the NFL. I mean, they gave up the one big run to DeAndre Swift, and Chicago put together a drive late, but honestly, they shut down a red-hot Bears offense that was rolling really well the last couple of weeks under Caleb Williams. So I think that's all Dan Quinn. I think that's all Dan Quinn, and Cliff Kingsbury, tremendous credit for how he's helped develop Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, and now we're just sitting here looking at a 6-2 team that is the top of the division. I mean, leading the Eagles. Yeah, we are.
Hail to the Commanders. Hail victory.
And I feel like we talk about it every single week. We're like, is this a team that could win the division? Is this? And it's the conversation now.
It is a legit conversation. Yeah. It is a legit conversation. I mean, I think they've got a very good shot at making the playoffs. They've got a legit chance at winning the NFC East.
Philly looked good today.
They did.
This is the longest segment we've ever done on any team.
The Vikings.
Coming around on
JG, I've had 20 years of hell. Let me enjoy this. I've had 20 years of hell.
I love the Commanders.
I love everything about this. I do think there's a little bit of karma. This was the man upstairs saying, you know what? We put you through hell with 20 years of Snyder. We're going to give you one. We owe you a couple. And there you go.
I wonder if Snyder was watching today, like, in a dark room in his yacht, turning the light on and off. I don't know. That's mean-spirited.
There's no dark room. I was about to say, those bad boys are well lit. He's doing just fine. You brought up Jameis Winston, so let's have a conversation about it. He starts for the first time in 2 years, and he comes in and orchestrates a victory against the Ravens. And what did he say? Unwavering faith, ultimate belief. He said that about 3 times in the pregame interview, but it's actually what it seems to be he injected into this Browns team. Just looked like a different team.
Yeah, and I asked him after the game, like, how did that show up? We were sitting there in the viewing room. It's a preacher coming at you. Like, when Jameis is delivering that, he's looking at the camera like, right after he says it, like he's talking to the congregation. And I asked him, how did that show up? And he said, no matter what, the team continued to fight. And that's what you saw from this Cleveland Browns team. And I think as a football fan, we all sit here like, why? We've been asking for Jameis for the last 5-6 weeks. Put him out there. He gets out there. The whole team just played with a different kind of belief. They believed that they were, honestly playing against the best-looking team in the NFL over the last 5 weeks. And they went out there from the beginning of the game, competed, and gave themselves a chance to win. And then when it came to Jameis making a play, he said, I just prayed. I prayed because I threw the ball, and Kyle Hamilton should have picked it off. But he said to me, when you miss those opportunities, usually good things happen after that. And they took advantage and threw a game-winning touchdown for him.
You said it. Line one is fight. It's compete. And if you watch the Browns all year long, they really haven't been doing that. It has not been their calling card, has not been in the DNA of the team. And he came in and he brought a spark to this team. And that's what he's done throughout his whole career. Sometimes it gets a little overly aggressive and he throws too many interceptions, but you can't in any way question his competitiveness and how that's contagious throughout the team. The interesting thing for him, though, is Baltimore is really good defending the run. They're among the worst in the NFL in defending the pass. And I like the approach they took, throwing the ball. He threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. They went after him down the field and attacked the Ravens, and Jameis came up big. I had unwavering belief. I don't know about you guys, but it was unwavering.
Coach, at one point earlier in the season, you referred to the Deshaun Watson contract as basically a ball and chain, and it was dragging down everyone.
Absolutely.
And now we see what happens when Deshaun Watson's out of the picture. All due respect to him, but he's out of the picture, and Jameis Winston can come in with that unique brand of authenticity. He's a little goofy, but, you know, we all are a little goofy. And it comes through, and he's got an exuberance, he's got a jubilation, and it may not turn the season around, but at least it makes it less of a disaster. And I think that Browns fans can just enjoy this ride. Whatever this ride is, enjoy it with Jameis. And probably not playoffs, but still, it's so far different. It's that ball and chain off of the entire organization, fans, players, coaches, everyone except for ownership.
Yeah, I honestly, like, just having the opportunity to not have to play Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I'm sorry, but purely on the field, I believe this year he was the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. And honestly, if you go back to last year, the team played better under Joe Flacco. And they didn't want to bring back Flacco, who was very popular with the fans. If you go back to the first year he was in Cleveland, I would argue that Jacoby Brissett was better as a quarterback for the Browns than the last 5 games once Watson came off the suspension. Cleveland scored 29 points today. They haven't scored 20 points in any other game this season. Winston had 334 passing yards against the Ravens. Deshaun Watson has never had a 300-yard passing game as a member of the Cleveland Browns. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens next year when Watson is, in theory, healthy and back again with the team because of that contract. But I feel good for the Cleveland fans. I feel good for the team as well because suddenly, to your point, like that ball and chain is not there, and they have hope. Like, by the way, and not just Jameis Winston. How about Cedric Tillman having a huge game? You know, young player who gets an opportunity with the trade of Amari Cooper to Buffalo. Cedric Tillman has a really nice game. David Njoku has been great the last couple of weeks. They got Nick Chubb back the last couple of weeks as well, who's such a heart and soul of that team. Their offensive line was banged up in this one, and still, like, they took it to as hot a team in the NFL in Baltimore as it is, and good for the Browns. Like, they deserve this one.
If something like this continues, they can't bring back Deshaun Watson. I know it's going to be huge cap ramification, huge cash ramification, $92 million. You can't bring him back if this keeps going on. And who knows if it'll keep going on.
You can't sell that to the guys in the locker room. There's no way. And you remember, like, we talked about this Cleveland Browns team. They were in the playoffs, and they got dismantled by Houston. But we anticipated this being a good football team this year. So you see Jameis go in there, and, again, we don't know what happens with the season. But I look at this team and say, they're a good football team. So the rest of the AFC North, when you go in there, you play Jameis. And, again, this game was a little – you didn't see another side of it because Jameis threw what could have been 3 interceptions that would have changed the game if Baltimore made those plays. But a credit to him is Baltimore hasn't made those plays all year, and they went and did it. So I think the big thing now looking at this game is what happens with Baltimore? Like, your pass defense has been an issue. It looked like Eddie Jackson got more time today instead of Marcus Williams. He dropped 2 interceptions. That didn't really pay off. So where do they turn next to try to fix this pass defense? Because their team is arguably the best team in the NFL right now, but that issue is holding them back more than anything.
And it's a real issue. And if you can't defend the pass, you're going to give up a lot of points, and that's what they've done. They play better than they typically do. The run defense is stout, but they got to get that thing squared away. Are they okay over there?
Maybe the Patriots forfeited and the Jets won today. Maybe that's what happened.
They cheated or something.
In case you ever watch Football Night in America and you hear us say James Kaminsky. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, but that's JK. He's like a long-suffering Jets fan, and we're always trying to, like, help him, soothe him. He's given up on the Jets.
I have a feeling George Kittle. I have a feeling George Kittle just
scored.
I
think he hit a parlay. We think he hit a parlay. We're not 100%.
He's happy about national tight end.
Let's go.
With it also, it could help us with our picks. We might not end up being a meme. This is a good thing for us. All right, JK, we're rooting for you because you are all else, okay, every other week. Guys, let's go into our Halloween speed round. A little bit of fun here. It's a trick-or-treat. Halloween's on Thursday. We don't get to, like, be with each other during that time, so let's trick-or-treat Halloween speed round. If you disagree, it's a trick. It's a treat if you agree. The Lions are, in fact, the best team in football.
Trick. The Chiefs are 7-0. I mean, we keep saying like, they're not that great. They're 7-0. Everything, and they just got DeAndre Hopkins. Until the Chiefs get beat, they're the best team.
Treat. I think the Lions are the best team right now. They're getting better and better all the time. Khalif Raymond told me that one of the reasons they keep improving is Amon-Ra St. Brown is insisting on practice habits at an excellence level constantly, and it's snowballing. There's no letdown. They keep. I wonder how much of it comes from the 17-point lead they blew last year in the NFC Championship, but that creates a desire that I think can lift them to the Super Bowl. Now, if they played the Chiefs in New Orleans in the Super Bowl, I don't know. But right now, the Lions are better.
I'm going to agree with you, Florio. I'm going treat as well. I picked the Lions to be in the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens at the beginning of the season. What we see right now, this team continues to improve. They're dismantling the better teams that they play. It's just, how are they going to win? What way are they going to win? But we're watching every week, and we're like, they're going to win.
No doubt. I go Trick because I still think Kansas City is the best, going 7-0. But the thing I've been most impressed with Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson, one of their best players, out for the year. They haven't blinked. And that's been a story for us. Every week we talk about, they're not as good on offense because this guy's out. They're not as good on defense because this guy's out. They haven't blinked. And Dan Campbell, I visited with him after the game when they lost Hutch. He said, too bad for Hutch. He's the absolute best, but no excuses. We're moving forward. And that team has responded.
Yeah. Well, Jameis Williams, too.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's impressive. What about the Falcons, Texans, and Bills wrapped up their division?
I'm going to say Trick. I think the Bills did, but, listen, the Colts are 4-4. They're just 2 games out. The Texans and Tampa Bay is right there. I know that they've lost both games to the Falcons, but Tampa Bay is a good team. I thought Baker Mayfield played great today, given the fact that he had no weapons. They'll get Mike Evans back. They'll get better. The Falcons may still win, but did they wrap it up today? No, I don't think so. I'm going to say Trick.
Yeah, I agree. Bills, yes. The other 2, I think the Texans, yes, but the Falcons, they could still get caught by the Bucs.
Yeah, I'm going to go Trick as well. I just think it's too hard to tell when you make that broad of a statement. 3 different teams. I agree with both of you guys. I think Buffalo, they're gone with that division. But I could even argue that I think the Falcons are going to win the NFC South. I think taking a 2-game lead over Tampa Bay and winning that tiebreaker kind of sets them apart. But it's hard for me to definitely say the Texans are going to run away with that.
Yeah, I say Trick to 2 words, week 8. A lot of football to be played. I do think Buffalo is going to win that division.
All right, the the Cardinals are a true contender for the NFC West title.
Treat. They're playing tough. Like that was a West Coast game. West Coast team going to Miami for a 1 o'clock game. Tua's back. They're all excited, everything like that. And
the Heat.
And the Heat. And Kyler played great. Their defense is playing plucky. Like they're getting Marvin Harrison involved. Trey McBride is coming along. They're a tough out. They're a tough out. It was an impressive win against the Chargers last week as well. So yeah, I think they are, especially given the fact that San Francisco and the Rams have flaws.
You hit all the factors, and I'm going to say treat. The other one is they played Monday night. And to make that trip and play in the heat with all the Tua emotion, and he's back, and it felt like it was going to be one of those easy Miami offense kicks it into gear wins. They hung around, and they made it go their way. I always look for that, Coach. When a team and a quarterback, when you can just look at it and say it's not our day, but they say, no, it's still going to be our day, and they turn it around. And that's what Kyler Murray did, and he's done that a few times this year.
Ride or die, baby. Ride or die.
That's right. It shows them.
It's definitely true. I think no one's running away with this division. No one's playing exceptionally well, and this team is right in the mix, and they've had some character wins. Coming back against San Francisco, winning this game on the road against Miami, when at different times it looked like Miami was pulling away, they stayed in and then made the plays at the end. So I definitely think they're a contender.
I still have concerns just because they've been inconsistent this year. They've had some good character wins, but other days it appears like they didn't show up. The thing I like about their team is I feel like Kyler Murray has matured and he has some scars. And to Mike's point, fighting through some rough outings. We talk about this all the time. World Series time, the best pitchers, the guys who are in the Hall of Fame, still get guys out when they don't have their best stuff. And I think the best quarterbacks do that. They kind of fight their way through it. They fight through their scars. They got a little edginess to them, some callous to them. And I think he's developing that. He used to be a human highlight film. And I think we're seeing some of that toughness that great quarterbacks have, and that team is following them.
All right, what about the Jets? Would you believe that they would have beaten Buffalo, Pitt, New England with Robert Saleh?
I'm going to say trick. I think they would have beaten at least 2 of those with a good kicker. I mean, that's honestly, you hate to say only one player, but the truth of the matter is that Greg Zuerlein, in a game they lost by just a few points, he missed a field goal and missed an extra point today. And because of the missed extra point, they had to go for 2, and they didn't get 2 on the following possession. You think about the Buffalo game, he misses 2 field goals in the Buffalo game. Easily could have beaten Buffalo and the Patriots today with a good kicker. But I don't think Saleh is going to mask some of the inefficiencies on offense. And defensively, they were banged up. Against Pittsburgh, no DJ Reed, no Michael Carter. They were banged up on the defensive side of the ball. And honestly, Rodgers didn't play well.
I'm going to say trick, but they would have won 2 of them, I think. And the trick's really on the Jets for Woody Johnson doing what he did. I mean, it's the proverbial flaming bag of something other than candy that Woody Johnson put on the porch of all of the fans of the team by doing what he did.
That was incredible.
There's always one
so
line that Florio's going to give you.
He does.
Podcast.
He's going to come out with his own T-shirt, but we're working on it. I'm going treat. I mean, we can't definitely say they win the game, but you look at the way the defense has played these last 3 games after they lost their defensive coordinator to becoming the head coach, which I think is really hard, and you will know better than me, but to have a season where you're the coordinator, you got a plan, you know what you're doing week in and week out, and then like, oh, nope, you're the head coach now, and now you got to take on these new responsibilities. This defense is struggling, and we're not talking about against like powerhouses. Buffalo was a good team, but that was before Amari Cooper. They couldn't do much. You go play Pittsburgh, yeah, you were hurt, but just cover Pickens and you're okay. And New England's offense has been one of the worst offenses in the league. You get Drake May out, and Jacoby Brissett comes in and wins the game on the last drive. So I do think with Saleh there, it would have allowed everybody to still play their roles and would have given them a chance.
Yeah, I say trick. I just don't think he should have been fired. I don't know if it equates to winning these games, but he should still be the coach. They were 2-3 when that happened. If you want to give yourself the best chance to win over time, you keep him as the head coach.
Okay, trick or treat. Jerry Jones should have hired Dan Quinn as his head coach.
I'm going to say trick. I love Dan Quinn, obviously, and if he'd been hired with the Cowboys, he wouldn't be on my 6-2 first place
we
Washington
figured
Commanders.
you would go
Right, exactly.
Hail the Commanders, hail victory, I'm just saying. But the other thing is, what I would say is, and JG, you can speak to this better than I can, but the fact is that sometimes I think with coaches and players, you need a new voice, right? And so the Cowboys, they've heard Dan Quinn. They've heard him for years and years and years, and I think one of the things that's happened in this turnaround with Washington that I hear from players on that team is they've all bought in with Dan Quinn. He was a breath of fresh air to that franchise, to that organization, and I don't know that if he would have had the same effect in Dallas, they've known him for a long time. They obviously liked him and respect him, played hard for him, but I don't know if it would have had the same result as it does in Washington. I
say trick for a different reason. I don't think any team should hire a defensive head coach when you've got a young franchise quarterback because Cliff Kingsbury is going to be gone. You're going to have to bring in another offensive coordinator and hope it works and Jane Denton goes through that transition. I want offensive coach with a young franchise quarterback, so that's the reason I would have not hired Dan Quinn.
I understand that. I say trick simply because you see what Dan Quinn's doing in Washington, and you said it. Came in, it was all about the culture. It was building, it was doing things a certain way. I don't know Dan personally, but I don't know if that works out the same with Jerry Jones. We talked about it earlier, 3 radio shows. He goes on, he criticizes the offense. Like, those things are hard to deal with. So I think Jerry does a good job of making sure, hey, I got to bring in a guy that understands working with me. And Dan Quinn was there, so he might have been like, I'm not sure if this is going to work. So I say trick.
Yeah, I say trick too. Mike McCarthy's won a lot of games there. So I think he should be the coach in Dallas. And I think Dan embraced the new environment and the chance to take a team that's really struggled for a long, long time and put his stamp on it. And new ownership in Washington is key to this whole thing. It was hard for coaches in the past to overcome that environment that they were in. So new ownership comes in, new head coach, new day. It's a fun experience to be in, and he's doing a great job.
All right, guys.
By the way, credit to Adam Peters as well. Doesn't get enough credit. Adam Peters done a great job.
And again, you hear me talk about alignment a lot. Those guys are aligned. They know what they want to do, build that team, and it's showing up on the field.
Stop falling into this guy. We're good on the Commanders. We're good on the night.
Hail Commanders, hail victory.
Exactly. Thank you, Coach. That's exactly right,
Devin, what are you going to be for Halloween?
Not a commander. I'm going to be Darth Vader. My whole family were Star Wars.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, anyone else? No?
Really?
What am I going to be for Halloween?
Yeah.
We went this weekend as well, my wife and I. Fred and Daphne from Scooby-Doo.
Okay, I love that.
Don't tell Michael Hawley, but we have a Run PFT thing going based on Run DMC, so I have all of the pieces. They've arrived for my Run DMC, Run PFT. Don't tell Michael Hawley.
Oh, I can't wait.
I love that.
Jason, anything?
Yeah, Rocky Balboa.
He's like, obviously. The way he said it was like, duh.
How about you?
How about you, Maria?
I'm going to be Piglet. Roman's going to be Pooh Bear, obviously. Yeah. John has an Eeyore costume. He can never find his tail, you know. I don't know if he'll wear it, but I'll get you guys pictures. All right. All right, thank you so much for joining us this week yet again, and we will see you next week for the Football Night in America podcast. Like, subscribe, listen. We appreciate you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.